My name is Emily Steck, and this is Real Opinions. Hello, my name is Emily Steck. I'm a writer, actor, director, and when I need to be, producer. And I'm based in London, Southeast London.
How long have you been active in the industry as a whole?
That's a good question. I started as an actor, so I've been acting in some capacity since I was young, not in a professional capacity since I was young, just in school and stuff. And then I moved to the UK in 2015 to train as an actor, and then I started writing. My film Awkward Intimacy that I worked on with you guys, that was my first film ever. So I've only been in film, I guess, since 2021. So sort of weird sections.
Where did you train when you came to the UK?
I trained as an actor at Lambda, which is in West London, and I really loved it. I had an amazing time. And then I trained as a writer at Central, which is in North London.
How did you end up doing what you do? I don't know if you want to focus in on one particular area.
They they're funny in that they just sort of unspooled quite naturally. I started as a dancer when I was young. Dance was the main thing I was interested in, but I got some wonky knees. It was not meant to be, but I sort of always did acting alongside of it. And then when I was in drama school, we had a class led by a really amazing man named John Baxter that was about making your own work. And that sort of got me writing. And then when I was doing my writing program, I was like, oh yeah, outside of theater, I can do scripts and things. So I had started writing a pilot and stuff like that. And kind of in lockdown, I was like, I need to make something. And it was a point when theater was like, is theater never going to happen again? And I was like, I could make a film with friends and in a sort of contained environment. So, and now I really have the bug for film in quite a bad way. So it's been a funny little snowball, I guess, to where I am now.
You kind of covered the areas of a triple threat, but in different places apart from.
Yeah, I'm not singing. I did musical theater growing up. But I was always the comedy part where they were you could talk through the song if you wanted to. And I was that's because I'm really good, right? And they're yeah, definitely.
Do you have a favorite musical?
Yes, it's Hedwig and the Angry Inch. It's incredible. I grew up listening to it. My mom is obsessed with it. And I have 3 much older siblings and then 1 younger one. And she took one of my older ones to see it when he was a teen. And it was the 90s in New York, I guess. And she was oh, maybe this is slightly advanced for him. But she became absolutely obsessed with musicals. So I've listened to the soundtrack since I was really young. And it's just I think it's the most incredible show.
I've never seen the stage show. I've seen the film. But
the film is great. It is amazing. It's so good. I really hope they do it again. They did it in New York a while ago, and then someone was telling me they were working on a version of it in Manchester, maybe at the Royal Exchange, or I can't remember where. But it would be great if it happened again.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, the kind of the drag scene in Manchester is
yeah, and it's just so, I just think it's such an exciting, it's so blending of many things, which I always find really exciting. So yeah, that's my favorite.
Tell us about a project that made you realize this is what you wanted to do.
Well, I guess in terms of film, this project, my first film, which was just a really amazing experience. We had, I still have, such an amazing team, and everyone was so generous with their time and talents and stuff. And I think I have a great co-director named Emma Jude Harris, and our cinematographer, whose name is Ibrahim Sarah Mohammed, are both so great. And I just can't say enough about all of them because I was so new to it. So sort of like ignorance is bliss. And especially Ib is so experienced that he was like so integral in helping to get it done. And then all the actors are my friends, just everyone was like amazing on it. And then beyond that, I think creating my own work, this man named John Baxter does a class at Lambda, or he used to, he doesn't work there anymore, but called AutoCore, where you make your own piece, but you make it based on a piece of art and you can't write anything new for it. You kind of have to like put things together, and they're a bit like performance art-y, but it was like just a really incredible experience in terms of you can make a story and make something out of anything. Like you just have to like do it. And to express myself in that way, as opposed to being like an actor or a dancer where you're often you're like a conduit for other people's voices. It was like, oh, I can talk too. I can have a voice. So yeah, those two, I guess.
Tell us about one of your favorite festival experiences.
I have two.
Oh, please, the more the merrier. More the merrier.
The first festival I went to was VIF with 3 Fs, the Vive International Funny Film Festival. And it's like right on Lake Geneva, which I didn't realize when I went. It's like incredibly beautiful. And honestly, it was just like the nicest first experience for someone who's never been to a festival. Like the team couldn't have been nicer and more welcoming. There's a woman named Maud who was like my pal from the festival to like help show me around. And I just met like so many interesting people. I think it's in French speaking Switzerland. So there were lots of like French films and French artists. And it was just such a great program. It was super eclectic, and especially in terms of like what's funny. Like I think sometimes for comedy feels a bit narrow sometimes, but it was super broad and like just really exciting. Like being like, oh, this community, this like film community is so exciting. And then I also got to go to, I say POF, but it has an umlaut. So I guess it's probably like POF, but it sounds awful when I say it. POF Shorts in Estonia. And we were lucky enough to get some funding from the British Film Council to go. And we got to meet a couple of other filmmakers who'd come from London, which gave it this like really exciting feeling. And also I'd never been to Estonia. I'd never like thought about going to Estonia, and the festival does a really amazing job of kind of integrating with the city. And we got to go swimming in like, I think it's technically the Gulf of Finland, which was like, this was November. It was like so cold. And just, they had lots of stuff for you to like experience this city like within film and stuff. And so those were both really amazing. I guess I love them both because they felt like so part of the place that they were, and you really got to like know filmmakers from kind of like a different angle than your own little like community that you live in. So those were both amazing, and I'd love to go again.
I love it when filmmakers talk about festivals, because some of them we've been to, some of them we've had other clients go to that tell us about it, but it's just so nice to hear from filmmakers' own mouths that they've had a really good experience. And sometimes it's not even down to like the screening. Sometimes it's just more down to like who you met, the experience you had, the hospitality, and you know, did you get taken on a tour around the area? Did you get taken out for dinner? Yeah, and I love it, because it's like that's kind of what can often get forgotten about film festival selections. Is it's not always about like, you know, career. Sometimes it's like you're finding out, am I doing the right thing? Do I want to do this? You know, am I enjoying it? You know, have I been to this place before? You know, is the audience response what I expected? You know, all the wonderful kind of variables of a film and a festival. That's our job.
And I felt like the ones where they were like, I mean, to be fair, all the ones I've been to have been so welcoming and so nice, but I think those two in particular, they just seemed to really love doing what they were doing, where they were doing it. And I think they were also probably getting a lot of like support from the greater community, the country, whatever. And it makes you feel more, I don't love networking personally. And so, but it makes you feel more like comfortable and natural to just be like, oh, we're doing something super interesting or fun or cool in this new place, and you just feel a bit more like human and at ease and open, as opposed to like, hi, I do this, please like hire me. It's just like is so much more like alive. Yeah.
What do you want people to feel like when they've watched your work?
I read that question and I was like, that's a really good question. Came up with a good answer. But I think the things I'm sure you're catching on that, like I can't answer a question succinctly, but I make comedy is in everything I make, even if I'm making something serious, because I think that's actually how humans get through the world. Like even in really hard, depressing, difficult things, like I think it's so rare to be in a circumstance where like nothing is funny. Like that's how I see the world. So I think I obviously want audiences to laugh. But I think beyond that, I want them to feel, I guess, like seen, but I don't mean it in sort of a like, that's me, that's exactly me on screen, but just in like, ooh, that little tiny, awkward, quiet human feeling inside me that I get when I do X, Y, Z. Ooh, that's it right there. Even if it's just for a minute, like not the whole film. I find that like that sort of like humanity is, I think, what I like want and chase. And I don't think I'm always successful, obviously, but even if it's just like a fleeting moment of like, oh God, yeah, like I know that. I don't like that, but like I do like it, as opposed to being like, that's exactly me and exactly my life. It's just like, oh, that's so human, well, like for lack of a better word. But yeah, if that makes sense.
What is people's biggest misconception about you?
When I started drama school, I had a good friend who I remember was like, yeah, I thought you were like really cool when I first met you. And obviously that's not correct now that I know you. So that's a good one. I think maybe I like come off as quite like extroverted and outgoing, but I have a real like quiet hermit side as well, and need like a comical amount of alone time. Just like so uninteresting. I'm just like, leave me alone. So maybe those, I don't think I actually come off across as cool. I think I was like quiet, which then people like project their own shit on you. But yeah, probably that I come off as quite like, and it's like, I have a limited supply of that. And then I have to be like, goodbye now.
Just replenish after
socializing. I have to go watch like shit TV for like 3 days. And then I'm like, I'm back.
How did you feel when you finished Awkward Intimacy?
Oh, like so good, and also like terrified. I think when we finished filming, I was like, shit, we've like done it. It was like 2 days, so it's like so quick, and we were shooting in my house, so I was like, what's sleep? I don't know. I think when we finished editing, because the edit took a lot longer than I realized. I'm sure every other filmmaker's like, duh. But also I was editing it with my co-director and our DOP and schedules and blah, blah, blah. But I think we had watched it so many times that I was like, this is not funny. Like I was very proud that we had finished it, but I was so terrified that like, it wasn't actually funny. We'd edited it wrong. Like I'm a real like overthinker. So it was an amazing mix of like a high of being like, fuck, I made a film. Like I can show my parents I made a film. And then, I mean, and you guys were amazing kind of in the next step of like festivals or whatever, because that was like, if I was ignorant about filmmaking, I was like beyond ignorant about festivals. So kind of being like, what happens now? So it was like an incredible precipice of like, yeah. And then being like, what? So yeah.
I like the kind of physical representation there. Like it's kind of.
Yeah. I'm a real like.
Yeah. It's kind of like, it's eurythmy, isn't it? Where you like do the scarves and stuff. Yeah. interpretive dance. It's all movement. It's all movement.
Yeah, it's all movement.
Are you an early worm or a night owl?
I'm neither. And I always read those articles. I'm just like normal. I don't know. I think I am like a real procrastinator and I'm like on and off a lot. So I'm sort of just like, I like to sleep.
We need something in between because they're the two extremes.
Just like a dog. I don't know. Just someone who's like, I'm here. I'm here. I guess maybe slightly more night owl, but just slightly. I'm not like true night owl, but I do not like getting up early. So,
well, the weird thing is I always kind of feel that night owl and early worm can actually blend, because if you're up like a ridiculous, like if you're up late, like gone midnight, then you are kind of teetering in. But then if you're someone that like gets up at 5 a.m. religiously, and
I have friends who are both, and I'm just like, what about a solid like 9:30, 9:30 wake up, 10 p.m. bed? Like, what's that?
I wish I could even do that. I kind of
I mean, that's the ideal. I fail all the time.
Yeah. If a film had a spirit animal, what would it be?
I thought it would be a dolphin because they're slippery and weird and they have sex for pleasure. So and like yeah, I loved dolphins when I was like a weird, awkward child. So I was like, yeah, this works.
Okay. Hands down the best answer I've ever got to that question. I'm going to now ask you, if you were stuck on a desert island, what one film would you take?
I feel like I should have like something that's really like meaningful to all the people in my life, but we have very different tastes. So I would take Superstar, which no one knows that film. It is starring Molly Shannon. Will Ferrell is in it as well. I don't even know when it was made. I watched it a lot growing up. It's one of those films, I showed it to some friends recently and they're like, oh, I now completely understand where you like formed this personality from. But there was a period, I think it's like late 90s, early 2000s, where they made a lot of movies out of Saturday Night Live sketches. Like the most famous one is Wayne's World, but there were two other ones. There might be more, but the two I was obsessed with are Night at the Roxbury and Superstar. And Superstar starring Molly Shannon as a Catholic schoolgirl named Mary Catherine Gallagher, who wants to be a superstar. And it is like madness and so funny. And I'm just think it's like the best film ever. And in terms of like women in comedy, like she's so physical and like so crazy and like aggressive not aggressive just in like a full-bodied way. And I think it's like she's such an exciting comedic female performer, and I think she now is popping up again in a lot of stuff. But yeah, it's just the best film.
Do you collect anything?
Not really. I collected shells when I was younger. As you can see with the dolphin, there was like a beach fascination situation going on. I still like to pick up the odd shell, but when I was young, it's like if we left a holiday destination, it's like my suitcase would be like rocks and shells. And then I don't know, when I travel, I like to get like random little stuff. So my house is filled with like random knickknacks where it's like, why did you need that tiny replica of a tram from Lisbon? And I'm like, I don't know, but I bought it.
Little trinkets. They're like little treasure trinkets.
Yeah, I much prefer like buying stuff that way. So then when you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, I went there, as opposed to like, I mean, there is a lot of IKEA stuff in my house as well, but not being like, yes, my beautiful IKEA set. What a day that was.